Hi, good afternoon, all. How are we doing today?
Great. How are you?
Fine, thank
Fine,
you.
fine.
Fine, thank you. Y'all holidaying? Because my neighbors already holidaying and they have
They
kids
must pull it. These people going on just regard it. I only see six or so on so far.
Yeah, but I was thinking about, I said, let me give the 5 minutes. And I said, it didn't matter because last week, nobody else show up. I think we had the same six person. So yeah, it's regarded this weekend, and
How
under.
you mean? I just loaded right now.
What? Okay. Yeah. So last week it was what it was, the crab fest. Now it's the
Or the week
regatta.
before, 2 weeks ago, it's Crab Fest.
Yeah. Well, I hope they listening to the recording. I hope so because we have two classes left, two classes and a review. So
Or
two chapters in a review. So hopefully persons will be able to catch up. Hopefully. So I hope you'll have a productive week, and I guess we could be short and sweet today, hopefully, so persons can start holiday in. Hopefully. But
yes,
so we'll start with the newspaper. Anybody read the newspaper and wants to share
yes, of
or
course.
get the 5%? Okay, go ahead.
What I already have my 5%, but I always have something to say. You know how I go.
Yeah.
Um, NIP with this retirement age. Now they say now this is alleged from 65 to 67. You think they serious with the 67, those extra 2 years?
No, I hope
That
not.
can't be
Just
right.
it
Good
already no
afternoon.
jobs. 5,000 children graduate from school each year and there are no jobs. So
Okay,
if you now extend for 2 more years, the people who are already in the sector for 40 years, I
okay.
mean, uh, they should be consultants and on boards and stuff like that.
I agree with you.
Yeah, I understand that the elderly still need some income, but they need they call it the silver economy, and the IDB been trying to put in initiatives to make sure that those ones who are able to live alone and still work, that there are initiatives out there for them. But with 5,000 every year, and already the way the jobs are, I don't know if the actuaries approve that, because they calculate lifespans. So
Exactly.
if there is sufficient space, then yes, but I doubt there is.
You only suppose you only got 70 years to live. That's a promise. But you might go over that by reason of strength. So they want you to work. Think about it now. So 67. So that means you only have 3 years to really play. If you die at 70, they crazy.
Well,
That's
yes, but
ridiculous.
yeah, I think they need to come up with something else, because a lot of persons don't plan for retirement. And I guess
Exactly.
they just go on social service, and they're getting that 210 or from the government. And so yeah, that I think the focus is out.
And they raising the minimum wage or something like that. I sure I saw something they doing on the 8th. I think
Yeah,
I glimpsed that too as
yeah.
well.
So the last time they raised minimum wage, Atlantis did not agree with it, and they let 200 or 300 persons go. They
Mm-hmm.
they said we simply can't afford it, and the government said we're going to do it, and they raised it, and a lot of people went home. So if you push these larger companies into something that they don't agree with, behemoths still suffer. So I really hope that the unions met and they agreed, not just force it on them, because persons are going to suffer.
But I read somewhere
So
that where NIB came out and said that that wasn't decided in stone as yet, the increase to the 67.
yeah, well, it was something Perry, when Perry was Christie was prime minister, he had tried to do it. He had also tried to change that you could be prime minister for more than 2 terms. So, and I believe that's because he was 70 something, or what have you. So I guess they bringing back these same old policies that they didn't pass the first time when they were in the government. So we'll see what happens. And a lot of people on social media saying that they really hope the government start to make decisions that are in benefit of the people, and not just a select few, or their cronies. So let's see what happens, because the PLP known for digging people up out the grave. and you know, giving them promotions and stuff that don't make sense. A lot of people questioning, you know, since Rodney Monk has been in this position as consultant on crime, you know, where's the plan? What has he done? So I don't know. Hopefully we'll be okay in the end. Sometimes it just looks cloudy and you know the outcome is okay, but let's see what happens. You know, but how y'all feel about that appointment?
Oh, Ian Winder.
No, Rodney Monka as consultant.
Hold on, Miss Bullet. I was so out just now. I was in a back conversation. What about Rodney Montana?
No. Mm-mm.
He was
Rodney isn't
appointed.
qualified for that.
No way.
Rodney
He
Montana,
was
what,
appointed.
Demetria?
He's
Mm-mm.
appointed as a consultant to the Ministry of National Security. They
I'll
say
stop this
us,
Cynthia. Anyway.
they
I
say
don't-
a $60,000 a year paycheck
Well,
and a
he needs
car.
that. He needs that money. If that's what he always crying for amount. So he
Yeah,
can
But
but
it's
do
not
who
about
that.
and
him.
who
It's
whose
about him
expense?
being qualified for the position.
No, he is not qualified for that. Y'all know Rodney Montana could barely speak the Queen's English.
Okay, so he is
So y'all,
second.
let's not go there.
No, but I mean, at a time when crime, you know what I mean, is almost a
Please.
pandemic now with the crime, with somebody being killed every day.
$60,000.
$60,000
I don't
a
even
year
make
plus a car
$60,000 and I get a little bit of qualification. What the hell?
and a car. So that means free gas. So with gas at $7.30, you could equate that to almost $100,000 a year. Eh?
Lord, what is this? Toward this country, I don't know.
But y'all ain't here for that. I mean, that been for at least a month now.
No, I
Yeah,
ain't here.
that's been a while.
Yeah.
I heard about it.
Yeah, people already been outraged and they come back again. They say, okay, Rodney, you've been in a position like for 1 month. Where the plan is? Show us this strategic plan that you have that will assist, you know, the government with crime. Where is it? So let's see what happens. Let's see. Okay, so y'all keep abreast of this how your money being spent. This where the back money going, this where our tax dollar being spent, you know. Will he make it till the end of the year? I mean, will anybody account? Will there actually be a plan? Will we see a damp point, you know, a decrease in the amount of crimes, or will it even make sense or have any effect with this, you know, consultancy? We'll have to see what
That
happens.
makes no sense, but anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, but okay, and so, but who's speaking up? Where are the lobbyists? Couple people wrote the newspaper, couple people made jokes on social media, but who was actually going to hold, you know, their feet to the fire? Who is going to make sure that there is some performance? And do we get some value or some money's worth? Or we keep seeing these ludicrous things happen, and we just stand by silently, or we talk amongst ourselves, and there's no action.
I think Dr. Minnis and Glennis Hannah Martin, or one of them, with the next lady named Allison.
Allison is
Right.
strongly against it. Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Allison and Dr. Minnis strongly against his appointment.
Okay, because you know when Loretta had appointed him as a senator, Allison Maynard, you know, did stand up and said he was created as a distraction. They are making a mockery of the Senate, and you know, he had called her one day and he said that's how they started to call him Two Meat Rodney. He had called her and he said, when you take up your breakfast, please take up mine because I'm going to be late. And make sure I get the 2 meats. I want sausage and tuna. And of course, she was outraged for him to even suggest that she should take up his food, you know. And so all of that was discussed in the Senate and saying, come on, this man only coming here for breakfast. He adds no value. This makes no sense, you know. And so yeah, she was against it since then because of course, you know, she worked hard, she has a law degree or whatever, she's contributed. And
Y'all
so,
that's not the caliber of what the house is all about.
right. So I don't know.
That's what they say, is let any Tom, Dick, and Harry do whatever.
Yeah. So it discourages you. Do you not really have to go to school and spend your money and all this time and wreck your brain trying to get these certificates, or is it really just who you know? You have to be in the right clique. Is it just networking?
It
That makes
appears to
it
be only networking
This
because
is power. This is
That's how I
powerful.
think.
y'all.
the paper means nothing in
once
the
you like,
Bahamas.
yeah, once somebody like you, it
You're
means
strict.
nothing. Yeah. But even in like I say in Canada, you know, because I have a colleague there, and we had to assess Canada and them when I was at Royal Bank in their mentoring program because the entry level staff felt that there was no way that they could move to the top, and only the same persons were being promoted every time there was a position. And so they started a mentorship program where they did a speed dating with um each entry level would meet with an executive for I guess 10 minutes, and then an executive would um choose which entry level staff they would mentor, and so that person would attend meetings with them, they would cross train with them, and they would basically network with them, you know, because they said it's absolutely impossible to move up in Canada. And I said, in Canada, it's absolutely impossible to move up in the Bahamas if you don't know somebody. Okay. So that's why I say when you go to these civic organizations, it's not necessarily for you to like it or have fun, but you know, if you have fun or like it, that's a plus. But get your name out there and make sure that people know you, because you are now being qualified and you will be able to update your resume. And so when a position comes available, you know, I always say, I don't want to have to do you a favor. I don't want you to say use my cousin or my friend or what have you. I want to say, well, you know, Dominique is qualified and I'm familiar with her already. Okay, always paid attention in class, always participated, always got good grades, and she's qualified. You know, but what we are seeing now is you're not qualified and you get in a position, you know, and so you want to be wary about that. Okay, so make sure you qualify yourself. So if somebody does give you an opportunity, at least that, you know, the people who could tear you down anyway won't have any valid points against you. Okay. Okay, guys, very good. Keep reading, keep staying abreast, keep following what's happening in the country. Like I said, I have two persons I'm very, very proud of. They started at intro. They completed ICA about 2 years ago, and they were on this last ticket, you know, running, um, you know, for one of the parties. They weren't successful, and you know, it was their first time, but I'm sure if they stick at it and they stay informed, they will eventually become, you know, a successful parliamentarian, and hopefully they go there to make a difference. I'm praying that they do.
Miss Willard,
Yes,
do you teach the ICA course?
I do. There are 6 lecturers,
Oh.
and yeah, because it's 9 months of AML and 9 months of governance, risk, and compliance. So you'll have me for about 5 weeks, each lecturer for 5 weeks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And how does it work? Like,
You
there's
sound
an
disappointed.
exam?
You're like, oh Lord, Miss Bullet, not you again. I tell you.
No,
No.
no. I was literally curious for a long time. I just kept forgetting to ask the question.
Right.
And my second question was, is there like a test after every section, or is there one exam at the end, or how does that?
No. So it used to be an exam, but they have updated it and they changed it. So now it's just 3 essays. So each essay is 3,500 words. And that's why you have y'all writing these essays for homework, just to practice and reading how they reference, because like I said, you can lose up to 30, 40 points on referencing. And then you upload your paper into a system that tells you 10% of your paper came from this article, 10% of your paper was used in another person's essay. It gives you a percentage, and if you up to 50%, like copy and paste, or if you copy a body of law, you fail before you even start. So this is why I'm telling you, no copy and paste. Read the chapter, put it in your own words. When you do research, say according to, you have to reference properly, and you have to use their I think it's footnotes that they use, their style of referencing, or you fail. They mark heavily for just format. Okay, so that's why we practicing from now. So by the time we get there, we on board with their requirements. They are very meticulous when it comes to the essays and the content. Okay. Okay, good, very good.
Oh, on the newspaper thing, something that I read earlier this week that was very interesting to me was that Boris Johnson resigned his post in the UK.
Right.
And so that was after 60 persons had given up their position who were under him. So it's like a lot of his party had kind of say this ain't working out.
Right.
And they jumped in.
Right. So what I heard, and this may not be this right story. They have this position called a chief of whips, right?
Yeah.
And this chief whip is supposed to keep control of the house. Now, I don't know if y'all ever see our house where they slamming on the door and they rowing and carrying. It's be like a cat fight. It's very, very unprofessional. And so I was like, when I first watched the House of Assembly, I was embarrassed. I was like, oh my God, these people are out of control. And so I started to watch other countries, and if you see how they carry on, I mean, there's be near blows. And in some countries, there's even fights, so I say, oh my God, it's a crazy house. So in the UK, they have these positions what are supposed to keep control. So the persons don't, the speakers be like, I'm whoever is the police officer, come remove this person. Right? So these positions supposed to keep control. So anyway, apparently, I don't know, our house meets every Wednesday, but I don't know which day the UK Parliament meets. But apparently, after the meeting, they have these parties where they go and get so drunk and carry on, and they be falling over and what have you. And about 2 weeks ago, whomever is the chief house of the whips, I think he is the Minister of National Security or something like that. He actually sexually assaulted 2, I think, waiters who were at the party. And so I think they recorded it and what have you. And so the next morning, of course, he woke up and he resigned immediately from the party. And persons felt that, Mr. Johnson should have resigned as well, because he has allowed these parties to go on and get out of control. And there have been a lot of complaints coming out of these parties. Do you think he stopped the party the following week? No. He had another party. And and it was out of control again. Persons just getting drunk and carrying on and what have you. And so that's why I don't know if they actually resigned or they threatened. They threatened that if he did not resign, they would all resign. And so that's what prompted him to, but I think it was been 2 or 3 weeks. And wouldn't you shut the party down and say, okay, we already get negative media. We have had a senior person have to resign, and let's just end this. Yeah. They carried on. They carry on the next weekend and the weekend after that. And so, right. So they actually pushed him into having to resign. But to me, it's very, no stability there in the UK, because they just forced out Theresa May after she did not successfully complete the Brexit, and she replaced, I think David Cameron was the prime minister first. He said, if the persons vote that we should exit Britain, then that's a no confidence vote in me, because I don't agree that we should exit Britain, and so therefore I would resign. So being a man of his word, David, I think it was David Cameron, resigned. He was then replaced by Theresa May. Theresa May then did not realize how all the taxes, everything was, they would have to get their own central bank, all sorts of separation needed to happen in order for them to exit Britain. It wasn't as easy as, people thought it would be. And therefore, they, again, a no confidence vote in her and made forced to resign. Now, Johnson, same thing. So, I mean, you have to look at, stability. Were any of them able to even accomplish anything in the short time? Her term was overwhelmed by the exit. Boris, I think, was able to get it to the finalization, but still there are some things that need to be untangled. So I don't know. It isn't good for the country. The country, to me, it wouldn't benefit the country. This, no stability.
Now this is the third person.
Right. So now let's see, it will be the fourth person. Let's see if they won't compromise themselves, and then they could get.
So he's saying that he's going to stay on and not in the position until they find a replacement.
Yeah, but if those they want a replacement right away, and then they could change the whole business model. I saw it happen a lot too. In the offshore world, every 2-3 years, we got a new CEO, and they came up with this new business plan and this new strategy, and the person prior had worked hard, made many changes, and then that falls straight through the cracks. And so now we reinventing the wheel again. And to me, it was more egotistical than beneficial to the institution. And so I sort of say that's where the UK is right now. They don't ever do what's best for the people. They opposition, they there to oppose. Rather than say, okay, this was a good idea, they need to say, no, this was Miss Bullet idea, or this was my idea. And so the country suffers.
Yep.
Yeah, the country.
Same thing here. Every time when you switch government, same thing happens. Nobody wants to carry on with something, even though it wasn't working or it would have been good for the country.
Right. We have to put our name on it and say we did it in it. Yeah. So, I don't know. Hopefully, and this is why we want educated persons with integrity who are trained to get these positions to hopefully do the right thing, because it's a vicious cycle. It just continues to spin and spin and spin, and like I say, the country suffers, the citizens suffer. Yeah. Okay, guys. Anybody else? No. Okay, so I know quite a number of you were asking how many points you have, and I told you how to calculate it, so you should know where you are at. Please, I think you only have the next 2 classes if you don't have your 5% for the civic organization. I just marked papers this week, and let me tell you how I was just scrapping for points for some people just to get 70%, and a lot of persons got like 60s, but they simply did not do good on that exam. So please don't find yourself in that position where you don't get 60%, 50% on the exam, and you don't have any points, because we had some persons taking a retake and still not passing. So I was distraught this week with marking those exams. So please, like I say, take advantage of all the points that you can get whilst you're here, and sit in that exam comfortably, because that'll even help with the nerves. And please don't call Miss Bullet the week after and say if I could do my homework. No, the last homework now is July the 15th. I still have about 8 persons who have not submitted their homework. Definitely, you have to get like 85% because the final is only 70% of your grade. You have to get at least 85 or 90 on the final in order to pass without that homework being completed. So please take advantage of it. Okay, so you don't have to do a retake. Okay, so we are going to look at chapter 8, and chapter 8 talks about suspicious transactions, the SDR. On in ICA, one of the 3,500 word questions were how, when, or how would you file a suspicious transaction report? And I was actually very surprised. We had some persons like who are in ICA because they have a law degree already, or they have a first degree and it's recent. And so they did not come to intro and they did not come to intermediate. And they all needed to come because I had a class full of lawyers and persons, like I said, who were VPs and what have you, and they simply did not know how to even start and attempt this question, to get a reasonable grade. And so, I was speaking to the office and I was saying, even if you have a law degree, but you've never worked in compliance, if you don't understand, perhaps we need to, let them take a test before, they go into ICA because they just struggle. So it's good that you're going through the motions. And a lot of persons in ICA come and purchase this same intermediate and intro book, because this is more in layman's terms than the ICA book, and it helps you to understand. So it's a good thing that you're here. So how do we answer this question about establishing what calls for, what happens? How is a suspicious transaction report generated, or why is it generated? Okay, that's
Based on,
go ahead.
you want someone to answer that question?
Yes.
I mean, based on, you have to look at, first of all, you have to look at the nature of the business or the customer itself. And then you have to look at the amount of activities that are trafficking, whether it's normal or it's abnormal. And then you could do it over a period of time, and then you could figure it out.
Okay, so what would make it not normal?
Okay, let's say your potential monthly expected activity is, let's say you say $5,000, and then all of a sudden you jump from 5, and then you see these 20,000 here, 30,000 here, 50,000 there, then it drop back to about 4,000. It starts a direct, let me say the right word, irregularities.
Okay, but where do you get this? Where do you get this information
from? You get it from the system. You don't have a system like I know in banking, like we have a system whereby there's a spot in the system where you click.
No. I want you to tell me if you wrote this in an essay. How did you establish this information? Somebody in the bank help her.
Before you even
You have to know your
customer.
What's the basis? Somebody said it.
You have to
know your customer.
The customer where the funds are from.
Okay. Oh, no. Let's stop. Who said know your customer?
I did.
I'm saying that you have to know your customer, but
okay.
And
business change
at the teller level. The teller does the suspicious transaction. The actual
that's not
the
right.
teller is responsible for.
The teller is not responsible.
The teller is not responsible. If
and not all funds come into the teller.
Right.
You wire to the account.
Right, because you got accounts.
You have to know your customer. You have some customers when like, let's say, I had an account 10 years ago. As a student, I would have gone educated myself. I would have learned, but I still have my account, and now I'm a lawyer. So as the MLRO monitoring this account, they should be able to contact their customer to get this understanding of how this customer now has obtained this wealth. So getting to know your customer is the first thing.
Correct. Correct. You should know your customer, and then it starts at account opening. At account opening, we generate a profile.
Right.
That profile is corroborated. If you say I'm going to deposit $2,000 a month, you bring in your job letter that says you make $3,000 a month, because you can't deposit your entire salary, or you should have some bills. If you say I make $2,000 a month, but I'm going to deposit 10,000, you then bring in rental agreements, any businesses that you're involved in, and we cooperated to make sure that you are the owner and you indeed make this money and you can afford to deposit this sum. So knowing your customer is the first step. The next step is corroborating the information that is sent into the organization, and that person is generating a profile. Once you generate that profile, if any transactions are outside of the profile, like Indira said, then it's deemed unusual or suspicious. Okay, so let's talk about, what's his name? Oh, I always like to Edison Sumner. Profile was generated as a company account. They opened it for cryptocurrency. Persons were going to come in and deposit up to $100,000, and everybody came in. It was within their profile. The persons who deposited was for cryptocurrency. However, he wanted to make withdrawals to purchase a BMW, to buy a Rolex watch, to go to Disney World. It's within the transactional amount. He did not go over. Is that suspicious?
The amount isn't suspicious, but the purpose is suspicious. The nature of the transaction.
Okay, good. Because remember, the account is for cryptocurrency. And so therefore, we're not only looking at transactions, right? We're looking at purpose as well. So if it's outside of the transactional limit, if it's outside of the purpose, then all of that deems it suspicious. Okay, so we can only look at transactions, and we can only make sure that these are the right persons to sign and the signatures match, because a lot of times that's all we do. Another thing that persons do is, back in the day, there used to be a limit before we changed from the rules-based approach to the risk-based approach. The law said if you deposit 5,000, let them declare the source of funds. Persons brought in $499. If you deposit 10,000, declare the source of funds. Persons brought in $999. Now they increased it to 15,000, people bringing in $14.99. Okay, and so what happens is something called smurfing, where we see today somebody deposits 2,000, the next day they deposit 10,000, the next day they deposit 5,000. So if the bank still has that threshold in place, that they would have gone over the 15,000, but they would have broken up the transactions so that we don't notice. Okay.
Let's put it.
Yeah.
What a lot of persons were doing in banking, they would go to, like, Scotia had 1 million branches.
Yes.
If you're not paying attention, if you don't go in the passbook activity or the back-to-back transactions, you wouldn't notice. They'll go to, and they'll just get the money in the system like that. Put $2,000 here, $5,000 there, XYZ, until they get the full 10,000 in.
Right.
To
It's
avoid
called
another
smurfing.
source of, smurfing.
Yeah. So all of these things happen. And so this is why we moved from that rules-based approach to that risk-based approach, because everybody, if a threshold is 15,000, if you only make $1,000 a month, where you getting the extra 14,000 from? So it still did not make sense for the persons who definitely could not afford to bring in 14,000 extra into the bank. So that left a, you know, a big loophole for all those persons, and particular government employees who were below that threshold and they were depositing that money. And so a lot of times, like I say, all the time we are reactive rather than proactive. So well, after we saw this happening a lot, we realized that that threshold just simply did not work. A lot of banks still abide by that threshold. A lot of banks still, they do not ask you to declare the source of funds if you are, you know, if it's outside of your profile, because a lot of times they don't even know. And some of the questions regarding this chapter for the classwork, it asks you, what transactional monitoring system does your office have? How do they check the names? How does it check the transactions? Because even if you go to different branches in DERA, at the end of the day, when reports are ran, there should be a report that, you know, called a smurfing report or a transactional report that should show the account officer that
Mhm.
this person went to 5 different branches.
Oh, I'm not sure if they had that system
Right.
back in the day at when I
Yeah.
was at Scotia. I
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
am
Back
not
in the
clear about
day,
that. They
no,
didn't have
back in the
that.
day,
No.
Scotia's still way behind on
Yeah.
technology. They still
Yeah.
high age, yeah.
You
Yeah. So,
understand?
but at Royal Bank, we had a report printer that would show us, you know. But back then we didn't have the knowledge. All we used to do is say, you see this person deposit all this money, wonder where they get it from. You know. And so now, like I say, the risk-based approach is in, the training is required. Compliance has become everybody's business. Back then it was only the compliance officer to worry about it and only the compliance officer to go to jail. Now it's everybody to go to jail. And like you said, that front person, that teller, serves in the retail world about 80% of the customers, but 20% in the retail world comes through transfers or emails or you know, wire requests. In the offshore world, there are no tellers. Nobody comes into the bank to make a deposit or a withdrawal. All of those transactions are sent via wires. Okay, so we have to have a system that checks these names, and we have World Check connected to our Swift, because Indira might be our client and we know Indira and we have all her KYC. However, she may be sending money to Anita and we don't even know who Anita is. And so many laws had changed regarding Swift, sorry, back in like 2015, where they said if Indira wants to send money to Anita, we need Anita's full name and we need her address. Okay, in some instances they even ask for date of birth of who you're sending this money to, just so we can investigate that person if we have to. And so all of those rules, they were not a part of the 40 recommendation. However, like I said, we have a lot of regulators. We have the Basel Committee, we have the OECD that deals with tax, we have the Wolfsburg Group, the 7 largest banks around the world who put in their rules and regulations. So the Wolfsburg Group actually made that request that if you want to operate in Swift, the only way that you can send a wire anywhere in the world is if you have that person's name and their address, or you're not. In fact, most systems are blocked out. If you do not enter into that field, that wire won't even go through. Okay, and that wire won't go through because the Swift system is connected to WorldCheck, and many persons name Anita, many persons have the same name, and so they would need to check and make sure there are no hits against Anita's name before that wire is sent. Okay, is that clear?
Okay. Yes, it is.
Okay, okay, guess so you'd understand. So go to your institutions, find out who is checking the SWIFT of the customers' names that you're sending those wires to. Check.
Well,
Mute your mics, please.
Right,
Check.
Ms. Belen.
Yes.
Okay, we have a system in place at the credit union, right? Where, well, it's the end of day report. Whatever transaction was done will be printed out at the end of the shift. So that is where compliance view um transactions where deposits, large deposits, it keeps records of all of those. So that's where the compliance officer would see. She would then go and compare whatever source of funds that she would have collected with that.
Okay. Okay. Understood. But let me tell you how it should work. Most institutions have compliance being operational. Compliance should be fully independent of the business. Okay? It has gotten
Hmm.
so bad that the Securities Commission has even put it into one of their rules. Compliance should not be operational. Okay? And so what should happen is the account officer should check
Right.
that report and sign off on that, and compliance should check for that signature.
See,
Okay?
well, off the record, when you get some people who in their how can I say they have their position, but then they want extra. They want
Yeah.
just be yeah,
Yeah,
not just
we know all the politics. We know how it works, right? But this
yeah,
is what, yeah, this is what happened, and we have to keep pushing to ensure that compliance becomes independent, because we have a lot of the checker checking the checker. Okay, so
right,
compliance can't be the preparer and the verifier. Okay, there's supposed to be four different eyes checking, and if
right.
compliance looking through the report and making sure the person signed the report, that's one person doing the same thing. Okay, so we
Well, off
want,
the record,
yeah. Mhm.
compliance also is HR. Anyway, they behave.
Okay, yeah, yeah. Don't say no more. Say we know things happen, but we need to know what is right, right? This is what
Right.
happens
Yep.
because remember now, compliance makes no money for the business. We only make money from the business. We are preventing them from getting fined. Okay,
Right.
and so therefore, sales is make all the business, and so they interject all the money into sales, and so it's very hard to get funding, and that's why you see compliance bearing 4 and 5 acts, which is also a risk. Okay,
Right.
if you wanna, even if you get placed in these positions, when you get some power, you wanna fix these things because that's a big risk. Okay, you can't have one person bearing 4 or 5 hats. Okay, we'll
Right.
talk
Boy,
about
I stay routing about that, but anyway, I was
yeah,
a
we'll
small
talk
man
about
right
that
now.
more. Yeah, we'll talk about that more in chapter 10. But when we liaise with the regulator, the regulator allows you to come in once a year and air all your grievances with them confidentially. This is where we air our grievances and say, listen, you have to put some pressure on these institutions because, of course, they're looking at the bottom line and they don't want to provide funding. And so we have so many conflicts of interest. And I've seen over the years with having those conversations with the regulator, like I said, the Securities Commission went as far as to putting it into one of their rules. And
Right.
then I had an incident where my CEO insisted that I have a dotted line to him, and he said, "Oh, this is just for HR issues. If Miss Bullet needs to go on vacation and if she is on sick leave or whatever, she should report into me." And both central bank and the Securities Commission was adamant that remove that dotted line or this position cannot be approved, and you're already past the deadline. And they argued, and the regulator came back and said, no, this position will not be approved with a dotted line to the CEO because we don't want any intimidation. We don't want him denying her vacation or denying her bonus or being involved with anything, Ms. Bullet reports to the board. And so, like
Right.
I said, years ago, we had that interference, but now the regulators are hands-on with that, and they are helping to weed out all these issues. They can't weed out the issues if nobody speaks up about it. Okay. And
Right.
like I said, you aren't reporting the institution. You don't want the institution to shut down. You just want them to become compliant, which is your
Compliant.
job, right? So, like I
Right.
say, speak in confidence to say, help them make the right decisions. Okay. And of course,
Okay.
we know that the MLRO position is an approved position. And so put the ad in the newspaper, you could select Ms. Poiter to be a compliance officer. But if she's going to also be the MLRO, the regulator has to approve that. So if you're regulated by the gaming board has to approve. If it's by the compliance commission or the insurance commission, they have to approve. And many businesses, they cannot get their annual license renewed if that compliance position is not in place, or that MLRO position. And so another problem was, I had another CEO saying, oh, as a compliance officer, you're going to report to the CEO, and as the MLRO, you're going to report to the board or the committee. It does not work. It's one person, same
Right.
position. And like I say, they are crafty. They come up with all sorts of foolishness. That person, that MLRO, must remain independent, must report to the board. Okay.
Right.
We have
Okay.
MLROs doing client reviews. The front office is required to know the customer. We have the MLROs knowing the customer better than the front office. Should never happen. We have the
Right.
MLRO and the compliance department verifying. Should never happen. Okay? The account should go to the front office, go to the verification department, and that means the IDs are clear, the persons have signed where they need to, the complete package is in good order, it's been checked and verified, and then it goes to compliance. But again, a lot of institutions, they skip that step. They don't pay for that verification department. And again, that responsibility and that administrative nightmare to go back and forth and say, the passport expired, it's not a legible copy, it's not this,
Right.
it's not that, back and forth falls on compliance. Should not happen. Should be a verification department, because again, that makes compliance operational. And I'll say it again, compliance should not be operational, should be independent of the business. Okay? But
Okay.
we have a long way to go. Okay? So,
Okay.
yeah. And so you want that independence, because we don't want, when there's an STR to be filed, Miss Bullet saying, oh Lord, that's Demetria. That's my friend from, and this and that. No. The bank,
Right.
yeah, the front
Mm-hmm.
office, we don't want no interference. So when we get that report, we go into our investigative mode. We look at that file. We check to see who Ms. Poiter is. We check to see if her information was corroborated properly. We check to see how long she was outside of her profile. And then afterwards, we file our own report. Now, each
Right.
institution should have an internal SDR report, and then
Right.
the FIU now has a system where you upload the report. But I'm going to share my screen, and just so we can go through. I think I pulled up a report. Here it is. Yeah. So they have now created a system where this exact same form is uploaded, and you fill it out. Now, the law says that anybody can fill out a suspicious transaction report. And it's a little bit of a conflict, because if you work through an institution, you're filling out reports on behalf of that institution. Okay. And most times your internal policy says to send your internal form to your manager, and I guess your manager, or to the MLRO, let them do an investigation, and then let them decide if they are going to file that report or not. Now, in the past, what has happened is persons felt like, oh, this the MLRO cousin, and so they ain't gonna make this report, so I have to go and make this report myself. Or there was a failing to disclose, problem where Callis was saying, oh, that's above my pay grade. Oh, I ain't going to no court. I ain't giving no report. This thing could call my name. And I don't know if you know, when you go to court, the murderer is walk right out. They get your name, your address, and everything at the court. They see your face, and there's a retaliation. Every witnesses get killed. There's no witness protection. So there was a lot of persons who just simply said, oh, I ain't giving that report because that's Miss Bullock cousin. Miss Bullock could tip her cousin off. And so the fines for both tipping off and failing to disclose has been increased. Okay. And again, in training, you have to make, persons are at onboarding of a new employee, you have to make persons aware of their responsibility. You have a responsibility to disclose, and you have a responsibility not to tip off. Should you tip off or disclose or fail to disclose, you could go to jail and there's a fine. Okay, so you want to ensure that if you still feel that way, that this is not a confidential company that I work for, and the police definitely don't protect you. I giving no, you know what I mean? I'm not going to give any report. Then you don't want to work in the financial services sector, because now it's a duty as an employee if you work in the financial services sector.
Ms. Bullock, I've seen lately too, now they start asking if you have any affiliates as well. I think it's also for the same purpose, like where you won't want to report on somebody else because it's your family member. So like when application or when opening accounts or something like that, they ask if you have any family members or political affiliation or anything with any person or anything like that, within that company that you're applying for, or
correct, because of course when the court case comes up, they go and pull your file to see if you lied or if you know what I mean, if you're affiliated in any way. So you want to be careful on saying that you don't know anybody, or or opening accounts for your family members. It could come back to haunt you. Okay, like I said, the laws have changed and some people have to go to jail. So make sure you don't say this above my pay grade, or I ain't giving no report, because you are required to disclose, and you get fined for failing to disclose. Okay, so like I said, in the past, but the law does say anybody can file a suspicious transaction report, but your company's internal policy says you must send it to the MLRO. So I would listen to what the company's internal policy says, and if you feel like, oh, I done report Anita 5 times and this Miss Bullet cousin and she ain't reporting, leave this company. Okay, leave this company, because you will get fired for filing this report yourself. Okay, and even though the law says anybody can file it, internal policy says send it to your MLRO, and now the FIU has a system where the MLRO only has access, and you have to upload all this information into their system. Okay, and so therefore, like I say, leave it up to your manager, leave it up to your MLRO. They do an internal investigation and they decide they are going to be held accountable if they do not file this report themselves. Now, I have somebody in my class, he said them people downtown, them Italians or something like that, he believes that's a front. He is going to file a suspicious transaction report, but he is, filling that out as a person. He is not going to say on behalf of the company. Okay, because your MLRO has to be registered with the FIU, and they have to get an approval in order to get access to their system. Okay, so if you see something suspicious downtown and you're not filing on behalf of your company, it's fine. But normally you could just walk into the police station and make a complaint and have them investigate it. So leave this to the MLROs, okay, who have been approved. And like I said, a part of company is putting the ad in the paper, selecting you as the compliance officer and MLRO. They still have to go to the regulator and get an approval. They have to send that approval to the FIU. The FIU will, and the regulator, they do a background check. They come and talk to your neighbors. If you're going through the gaming board application is 66 pages. They want fingerprints. They want all your children's birth certificates, and they come out and talk to your neighbors. So make sure you treat your neighbors good, okay? And then they also want your financial records to see how much money you have. So if they need to see if Miss Bullet started out with $6, now she have 600,000 in 5 years. They want all of that information on file so they can make a proper determination. So make sure, like I say, don't be give the correct information, and don't put any false information on these applications just so you can get approved. Okay.
I must say that question, when you answered my question yesterday, because that there had me with the MLRO. Say you file in you put in the SGR, and say, for instance, the person there's evidence of suspicion about this member, and the MLRO is not moving forward with their part with the FIU. Yeah, I must say you answered that question, because I was talking to the compliance. Well, Miss Bullard is be so mixed up, because one minute you're saying compliance officer, then you're saying MLRO for that person. But anyway, huh? Um,
Yeah, well, see, it's
anyway,
two separate functions. It's two separate functions now, because there could be four compliance officers. Only one is compliance and money laundering reporting officer. So the most senior person in the department is normally the MLRO. So only one person has to be registered per company.
okay, well, so I guess
Yeah,
she goes to MLRO. But
right.
anyway, yeah, I was asking her about it, and she kind of beat around the bush, because she didn't really she didn't answer, so I just left it alone. But I must say, you covered it today.
Okay, good, good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I say, if this company is outside your appetite and you know that they doing some unscrupulous stuff, start the job post and go somewhere else, because it simply ain't worth it. Because when you get investigated, they can say, well, Miss Poitier, did you not why didn't you make a report? And you have to show evidence where you would have sent this information and followed up. And I always tell persons I've trained from I was a teller in Finkel Robinson Road. Once I
Hmm.
send this email on to my manager and I have proof that my manager received it, that's it. It's no longer my business. If she doesn't do her job, that's no longer my business. If the MLRO doesn't do her job, it's no longer my business. I've seen a lot of people
Right.
have heart attacks over people being nonchalant and not, it ain't my business. And when I see, you know, blatant frauds, I start the job post and I move on. Okay? Because I had a chairman of the board, move money that they wasn't supposed to move. Okay? And I decided, well, just outside of my appetite, it's time to move on. Okay? So don't, that's why I say have your 5 revenue streams and have something else to fall back on, because these banks gone are the day when you could work there for 20 and 30 years and you don't have an incident. A lot of unscrupulous things are happening, and they don't get away with it for 20 years. So they believe that they indispensable, and they in the clique, and friends, family, and lovers in high position. So they ain't gonna never go to jail. Gone are those days.
Right.
Yeah, gone are those days. So when you see that they ain't making changes and trying to follow the law, you make a change or you do your own thing. Right?
Right.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, good. Good. So let's look at this form and let's see. Of course, we said you are required to know your customer. You are required to um, corroborate the information that they bring in. You are risk rating that customer high, medium, and low. And if it's low, you're going to review that customer every 3 years. If it's high, you're going to review that customer every year. If it's medium, every 2 years. In your review, outside of the review, like somebody mentioned, you get reports. Demetria said they get a report. A lot of times we found that those reports would just be an initial and put right on the folder. Nobody ever looked at it. So the initialer of that report went home. Okay, you want to check those reports. Those reports are there to indicate that something went wrong. Okay, that Indira went to 5 branches of Scotia and deposited $10,000 each. Okay, that's what that report shows you. But a lot of times we're too busy, overworked, and underpaid. We sign that report and we put that right on the for filing and never look at it. Right? A lot of information are in those reports. Or we just don't simply understand what the report tells us and how it assists us. We don't know what filtering system or the checking system or how the system even works. Hence, Volkswagen was able to defraud the world with their emissions test because they brought in a new system. Nobody knew how it worked. Okay, if you had a new system, if you don't know how it works after 6 months, get the system developers to come in and train you. Okay, there's no way you operating and you don't know the capabilities of the system, because somebody who knows how to manipulate it may be using your ID to manipulate it. You have to protect yourself. Okay, so find out who's checking these names every night. Because today Miss Bullet is law abiding. The holiday weekend, she needs some money, she go and commit a crime. We need to know that Miss Bullet committed a crime. On Tuesday morning, we need to start monitoring her. Okay, and so find out what the system does and find out if you have to do something manually. Okay, or start fighting for a new system, and training is very important. Don't just drop the system and have one day training and expect us to know how to use it. Okay, be very careful with that. A lot of companies do it. Spend all the money on the system, no money for training. Okay, and so if you do your internal suspicious transaction report, this is about 6 pages. Your internal suspicious transaction report should be a 1-pager, and it asks you for the date, the number of pages, and you want to be very careful with filling this out because this document is going to be used in court. Okay, this same document here, our account officers had to go into Paris, you know, and give testimony based off of the STR that was signed when Royal Bank shut down. Okay, and of course they were all excited. Oh, we getting a free trip to Paris. And then it was the Paris bombings 2 days after they left. Okay, and so they did not want to return. And they then said, well, this is above my pay grade. The CEO needs to go. After the bombings were right in a coffee shop that they sat in 2 days prior. Okay, and if they had stayed back for that concert, they might have been dead. Okay, so if you weren't prepared to go to court and give testimony, if you're an account officer or MLRO, then don't sign up for these positions. Okay, so after you put in the date, the number of pages you would have completed should be 6. It's a 6-page document. You want to say what type of disclosure is this? Is the proceeds of crime, which is any money laundering offense? Do you suspect drug trafficking? Do you suspect terrorism financing? Okay, and what type of transaction? Was it a wire? Was it a deposit? Was it a credit card payment? You know, what was it? And the name of your institution, the full address. A lot of, if it was a wire, you would need to put the sort code and the SWIFT code is basically the same thing. The name of the person handling transaction, whoever the teller was or who received the wire, the name of the money laundering reporting officer, the MLRO, and was it an individual account? Was it a company account? And who is the beneficial owner of the company? who are the authorized signers, what are their full address, any intermediaries, was it send this money through Deutsche Bank or through another bank? Was it cash and go, and cash and go payments go to which bank? Anybody knows? No, you all there? You all
Miss
sleeping?
Miss Bonnet, repeat the question, yeah?
Yeah,
Okay,
repeat that.
Sorry,
okay.
sorry.
You want to make a payment to Internal Revenue, and you could go to Royal Bank, but that payment is for Royal Bank, right? That's for Internal Revenue.
Right.
Correct, Indira. So that would be an intermediary, would be the Royal
Right.
Bank.
Right.
Accepting this payment on behalf of Internal Revenue. Correct?
Right.
Okay.
Mhm.
So then the account activity, is it joint, a loan, what have you, the account number, the date it was opened, the date it was closed, the assets held, the jurisdiction, because again, we have offshore accounts, the amount, debit and credit, the source, the currency, and then this says describe in details the transaction and the activity that promoted the report. And this area here is where you write your full report. And this is why you want to make sure that you're good at essay writing, because you don't want to have foolishness, because again, this will could appear in court. Okay. Um, Statistical information. We had somebody out of Malaysia that had negative media in the newspaper, like let's say what's happening now with Adrian Gibson. But we were found out that it was just a witch hunt from the other party, because they were having an election. Again, this out of Malaysia. So we would have to investigate what was happening in Malaysia. Why would they say this about Adrian Gibson? Did this hold any grounds or not? Okay, and I imagine right now persons are waiting for this case. He didn't resign. So banks are, should have him on hold, and should be trying to make a decision. Are we going to continue to do business with him? Are we going to continue to do business with Shane Gibson, with Fredsman, anybody who would have been charged? Well, if they decided not to do business with Shane Gibson was awarded all his money back, and they're saying that it's a witch hunt, even though he won on a technicality. So you would have to really pay attention to know what's going on to be able to make proper decisions. And it would need to be in your AML report, because your AML report should say anybody charged or anybody convicted. And you want, or even accused. We don't want to do business with anybody who is even accused. Okay, so make sure the correct terminology is what you're actually doing, because persons have a habit of writing these policies and not following it. And that's when audit comes in and writes you up, because you are not doing what your policy says. Okay. And they want to know the nature of the institution. They want to know the customer type. And they have sent back when we said that, oh, we didn't have time to fill out this statistical data. They have sent this back and said, oh, this form is incomplete. Okay. And so criminality, suspected, drugs, terrorism, fraud, or other, and then you explain if it's other. Okay. And so this is a form that is submitted. And once this is submitted, what follows up with this is normally a production order. So they send you a letter and say that we have received your SDR. Please freeze the account, and we'd like you to produce all of the KYC transactions or documents, sorry. They want you to produce that particular transaction that led you to this suspicion. They want you to give information on anybody who is involved, and they want you now to monitor the account to ensure that large amounts of money does not just leave the bank and they get to run on off with it. So what happens is every time the customer sends in a transfer, I worked in wealth management, so these persons had like $1 million. So if it was like a $50,000 transfer, they would say they would allow it. But if they had like $1 million and they tried to withdraw 500,000, again, we had to kick in our terms and agreements and say, well, our signature card says that we can hold these funds for 3 days, or sometimes we could have held it for 30 days. And so a lot of companies tend to say, compliance have it on hold, or compliance need this information, or compliance, and we have to move away, because that's a form of tipping off. Okay, you want to move away from that terminology. You want to say, according to your terms and conditions, you know, we're allowed to hold this money for 3 days, or you want to get a standardized communication from your MLRO. Okay, and what should we tell these customers, because we want to move away from saying compliance. Okay, have it on hold, or they investigate, so we don't tip off. Again, once these SDRs are filed, more than likely these persons are already out on bail. They would have been arrested, and they trying to get this money out the bank because they know it's going to be frozen, okay, or confiscated. So you want to be vigilant and make sure that reports are checked daily. That and a lot of times that's what happens. We would have filed an SDR, and then when we realized all the money done gone, right? All the money was done wired out just the 2 days before we realized we should have filed this SDR. So you want to ensure that you are checking those reports and keeping abreast. Sometimes the hits are outstanding for months, right? And most of the hits, and this is why companies don't like to spend money, because 99% of the hits are going to be false negative. Okay, it's not going to be your customer, because no, you do proper due diligence in the beginning, right? Once you see that passport expired, you don't open that account, or once that person has a hit on their name, you don't open that account. So we do proper due diligence. So 99% of the hits are false negative, but you still have to check it, because that one hit could shut your entire institution down. Okay, that one hit. Okay, and I think I told you all the story of, I was at Royal Wealth Management and we closed down. You all know the story of the stolen art, correct?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
You
ma'am.
said that,
Right,
you said that,
right.
Nigel.
That was one customer. One customer, a very profitable business, shut down the whole bank. Okay, and Royal Bank, which is a Fortune 500 company. Okay, so don't take 99 other customers was okay. That one customer shut us down. Okay, that one customer, if this was happened before 2018, could have caused that trust officer to go to jail. Okay, because like I said, we had the information. We just did not have the intelligence and the knowledge to know about that type of art in Italy and around the world. Okay, so you want to be careful with products and services, because think about writing this up, stolen art, okay, coming out of the Bahamas. If we were knowledgeable enough to look in that book and say, oh my God, this is the Mona Lisa, and the Mona Lisa has been missing for years, but we just did not have that knowledge. Okay, but now in 2018, if we open those types of accounts, of course, we'll have to have a consultant who is familiar with art, who would be able to review those books and sign off that, and probably have even an insurance. Okay, but those people had like $100 million. So those types of accounts, you could pay for an appraiser and a consultant to protect your institution, or your whole institution shuts down. Okay, so you have to be, like I say, well versed in the product. If there is a language barrier, you must have somebody. If it's Latin American clients, you must have somebody that speaks Spanish and Portuguese. If it's French clients, you have to have somebody out of Europe speaks French. If it's Chinese country, you need somebody to speak Mandarin, to understand their culture, to understand their patterns. Because you make a lot of money, but it's a very, 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 very dangerous. Okay. And again, like I said, the hackers and scammers, they are very smart. They know, oh no, let's go down to the Bahamas. Nobody can speak Mandarin. They won't know what we're doing. Okay. So these languages are very important when you work in the offshore work. Okay. And a lot of companies, again, now do not want to spend the money to translate. Luckily for us, the law says it must be in plain, everything must be kept on file in English, right? And so some translations cost up to $1,000. One institution used to pass it on to the clients, one other institution used students, okay? But some institutions say, oh no, you must go learn Spanish. Are the regulators gonna learn Spanish? No, they are not. And so just for, to mitigate risk, it should be translated and kept on file in English. We had the same institution that used to pay up to $1,000 for translating. We had somebody who went to jail. When I opened the file, there was a picture with the man handcuffed on the front page, but it was in Spanish. So the person who did that review did not go any further. Okay, they did the world check. They saw that the person stayed within the profile. They went on Google, they Googled the name, printed out this article with the person being handcuffed, and never translated it because it was in Spanish. Okay, and sometimes you could click right on Google and press translate. And they had that on the file. So as compliance, we came up behind them and we checked 100% of the high risk, but we only checked 25% of the low and medium. And so that could take 4 years to come across my desk, which it did. And so when I opened the file and I said, why is this person handcuffed? Is this the client? I called the account officer. Oh, yeah, that's the client. I said, when last you talked to him? Oh, not for about 2 years, I said, do you realize that he was handcuffed? She was like, no, I didn't realize. I just saw the picture. I said, so what does this article say? Oh, I don't know. It was in Spanish. So I go right to Google Translate. I try to look up the article, and lo and behold, that's the man being arrested and hauled before the courts for money laundering.
Miss
Okay.
Bullet, even if it was a language barrier, if you have the picture in front of you, you should be able to see that the person hand is behind their back on however they handcuff the individual.
Okay. But Indira, everybody overworked and underpaid. Nobody wants to do enhanced due diligence. Everybody checking the box. I have 50 reviews to do. I get into these reviews. They ain't checked. They are not cooperating information. I tell you, people, you could walk into the bank with a job letter that says, I don't work and I make $0 a month. And they open up their account.
You write the thing.
They read it.
They read it.
They read it. I tell you, one account was opened in Royal Bank of Canada, where a man signed everywhere you sign it, which was at least in 10 spots, FYUB. So anyway, mind your effing business. That's what he put. MYFB.
Wow.
On every page.
That man called like that.
Okay. You remember sitting next to Minnis, the Oban man signed Donald Duck or something like that. Remember? And that's why the Oban deal fell apart. Nobody read that. A year later, somebody picked that up that he put Donald Duck when something had come up. Brave, bringing all these people for Cat Island to do this big development on Cat Island. The people blacklisted. That was just earlier this year.
Oh, wow.
Right? You all remember the big development?
Yes, I remember that. Who doing these checks and balances bad? You can't be sleeping. They sleeping on the job like this.
Listen, this is, like I say, and the regulator uses all across the KYC documents. There is so many deficiencies. Either we are asking the right questions or we look at 45 pages, nobody reading them. And then we tampering. If this come from Switzerland and they missing Ian sign one spot, we signing it. You know how much times we show up in court with our account or put in documents and the person say, I didn't sign that because I didn't agree to that. How is it signed on your side, Ms. Bullock? Charged with tampering. People do not read.
But if they paying you to read, you have to read.
Yeah, but listen, they paying me to get through it, and then nobody can check. And not until somebody check, pay close attention, you will see the foolishness. You will see the foolishness. The next guy, he opened an account. He is not supposed to be trading in the US market. He put that he was a Bahamian. He bring us a US passport, but he put that he was a Bahamian. You think we asked him for any work permit or citizenship? No, we sure didn't. Open that account. The man out on bail. When we call him, we say, hey, we get a subpoena from the government. Yeah, we need your Bahamian citizenship. He say, oh, I applied. They denied me because I was out on bail.
What kind of slackness this is?
That account officer dropped off a chair. You think Royal Bank didn't get fined $20,000 for cooperating with this man?
When how much she got fined?
No.
So what they did to Ms. Bullock?
That wasn't, but she went on probation.
But I know she's on
She didn't get no
suspension.
bonus. She didn't get no
Yeah,
bonus
she had
for
to
almost
get
2
something.
years. And she only lasted because she'd been in Royal Bank for 30 years.
Yeah, that's why.
Gotta just retire. But if that was one of us who been there for 10 years or so,
He's gone.
home sweet home. Home sweet home. So that's what I am telling you. Nobody corroborates the information. You say job letter, bring it. Nobody reads. Nobody. Nobody. Okay, so you're please do your best. Be vigilant. These companies are not organized and they do overwork you and they do load you down, but you set your own schedule. You set some deadlines, you negotiate the deadlines and take your time and do your work properly. You'll be surprised. And if we had one company with 11,000 deficiencies because each of their accounts had 45 pages, so that means almost every page was deficient, run from those institutions, okay? They about to be shut down, okay? When you see these institutions having a project after project after project, when you see they saying, oh, okay, we get most of the documents, we can leave it and come back to it, all of those create an administrative nightmare and you get wound up in that wheel for your life, okay, for your entire career. And now it's too dangerous to let that happen because the hackers and scammers, they actually know how we don't like to read and they actually know how to defraud the system. Okay, so please, like I say, know what your policy says, know what the procedure says, and protect yourself. I have a million stories. Protect yourself. Okay? All the people who can get free, don't get free. We got to make an example out of somebody on that. So please, protect yourself.
Agreed.
Okay, good. Good. You're ready to start holiday because these people turn up this music louder and louder.
Yeah,
You're
we
kind of
ready
in
to
the
start.
background?
Not yet, no, but I'm ready to start.
Okay, any questions on the SDR? Was it clear? Can we answer the questions on the classwork?
Yes.
I hope so. You always be saying yes every week. And I don't want to cry like how I cried this
No, ma'am.
morning whilst I was marking them papers.
Not on my side.
Yes.
That was a different class you were talking about, eh?
That's a different class, but I just said
okay.
one or two of you who very quiet in here, and this is class 8. This is class 8, and
It was straightforward to me.
Yeah, some people I still don't know. One or two of you don't even have 5% for participation. Okay, so please check yourself.
Boy, they tread
People
like
don't know
me.
you. Okay.
Miss Bullard, at this point, every man for themselves, they know what they have to do.
Okay, Dominic, but I don't say it 1,000 times. I don't say it no more.
I
No
agree.
more. Okay, good. Okay, guys. So you all enjoy your holiday and please be safe. Remember that COVID is still out there, even though nobody wearing a mask. You all protect yourself whilst your holiday in and have a good time, relax and unwind, and we'll do this again next week.
Okay.
And
Don't
enjoy
forget
your
that.
happy independence.
Next year,
Happy
happy Independence,
Independence.
so on. Okay, take care.
Okay,
All
good
right.
day. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.